I've been working on a cover for a Castlevania tune called Battle of the Holy, and it's from the Game Boy version of the Castlevania Adventure. It's a little bit lesser known, which is kind of why it's fun to do a cover for that song. And anyway, we'll talk more about this in length. Let's just play the tune. Okay, so this was a fun little project. I've been working on it for a while, on and off. I've been giving it lots of little gaps in between, and obviously, like I can't play this good yet. Uh, However, the way in which I put together this tune was it was intended to be played, meaning that there are no spans which are wider than an octave, which is whatever I can cover with my pinky and my thumb. And basically, everything is meant to be humanly playable, however, difficult. However difficult it might be. And I'm going to say this is the mountain I intend to scale. I'd like to be able to play this tune someday. And the way in which I put together this tune was I'd say that my ears are much more developed than my hands are. And plus, when you have the ability to go in there and draw in every single note and be able to, adjust all the velocities and just tweak things and adjust them, it's like the intent of what you want to play is always going to outstrip what your hands can perform, at least at the beginning. And I think this is something that maybe a lot of artists, both visual as well as acoustic, may face, is that their raw damage output, their raw stats just don't allow them to cover on, it just doesn't allow them to cover the beasts they want to slay. They can't fight the bosses they want to. But the thing is that if you're going to get good at anything, you have to climb that ladder, and you need to start with the bottom rungs of the ladder. You can't start halfway up the ladder. But at the same time, the demoralization of the gap between what you want to play and what you can play is maybe, it's pretty crushing. It's pretty hard for a lot of people. And so, I want to play this kind of stuff, but obviously I'm still at the I'm still at that level, right? I'm not at the level where I'd like to be yet. But it's like as I make this tune, right? I'm like, okay, make the tune according to how it should be played, right? How you think it should be played. It's like if you had God hands, how would you do it? If you were Fan Chen, right? How would you fucking, go at the tune? So I think that's it. It's good for a number of reasons to like if you're composing music, to try and compose music that you can actually play. I think if you had the struggle with learning the piano, I find it really helps me in terms of it helped me in terms of composing the tune, because then I would listen for things like, how hard would I hit those keys? Things like how would I handle crescendos? How do I want it to viscerally feel? What kind of exertion would I go into for certain portions of the tune? And it helps me with things like the loud and the soft, and how would I measure things out. And I think it's very, very different for it was very different for me before I learned, just before I even began with the piano, that I could really work with, right? This is a fully weighted keyboard, and before I practiced with fully weighted keyboard, when I made tunes, I made them without any regard for how hard you'd actually have to press the keys. When you work with a fully weighted keyboard, or a real piano for that matter, there's the physio-acoustic relationship, which means that if you work with in the real world, when you strike objects, there is a requisite amount of volume that comes out of the instrument, right? And it's like the muscular exertion that you feel from striking the instrument generates that requisite acoustic feedback. So when you work with a fully weighted piano keyboard, or you work with a real live instruments, there's that physio-acoustic feedback, and that knowledge of that, I find, helps me when I'm composing a tune, as opposed to being somebody who's just working entirely with virtual instruments and has no concept or sense of that, and has no sense of that relationship with the music. And it's hard. It means that you're kind of missing a certain amount of feeling, in terms of how hard you're really blasting the notes at. So when it comes to climbing the mountain, you've got to find, well, let's find some parts in this thing that we can actually play. Like, take this part here. We have this little arpeggiation here. Let's zoom in on that. Right? These are 5 notes. You can span that on your keyboard easily, right? And we'll even play this bit. Right? And that hand doesn't move anywhere. Like, let me just get to a piano camera. Okay, so 5 keys on the keyboard, and all I gotta do is just play them. Except it doesn't sound like that, right? It sounds like, oops. Where's my mouse? There's my mouse. Right, and I got this kind of thing where it goes loud and soft, right? And it's really smooth. Right? When I play this, it's kind of mashing. It's kind of like, and it feels unfamiliar. It feels a little weird, right? So I got to figure out where my hands are on the keyboard. And this is another thing that I think that I learned recently, was that people, when they think about where your fingers are on the keyboard, they only think in one dimension. They only think like how far up or how far up or how far down a finger is on the keyboard. But they don't actually think, where on the length of the key, right? Like, I found this is easier, right? Like, there's a part of the key that's easier to hit. So I'm finding that it's like really this portion of the white keys and like that portion of the black keys that I try to hit. But there's an additional issue where if you're hitting the keys in between, your fingers naturally begin to span higher and higher on some of those keys, right? So I got to think, it's like, where exactly on each key, it's like which key and where on the key does it really help for me to be able to, where's the most natural place where my fingers will fall? And then it turns out that I can't play them that fast. And sometimes there's a bit of like mushing together, right? Sometimes like these fingers kind of want to mush together. So it's probably better if I try and aim for a better rhythm but slower, if it means that I get distinct key hits. Let me turn off the reverb. I got a reverb in here. Let's turn that off. Okay. Oh yeah, and I got the sustain. Right? Because this is climbing a mountain. The whole song is one giant mountain, but there's all these different, if you've ever done mountain climbing, you'll find there are certain, you have to take the mountain in parts. There's certain, parts where there's like an overhang and you got to get in, past that. There's like maybe a really long series that you got to do. There might be a jump and a grab. So, you can only take on the mountain one part at a time. And this is one of those parts. And you're going to focus on that. And you're going to say, all right, can I do this arpeggiation nice and smooth and get the control that I want and have the rhythm that I want? Because it turns out it's not just about playing these 5 notes. It's about playing them in a rhythmic musical fashion. And that's like, that would be the raw damage stat, or the particular, it's a particular raw damage stat that I'm going to chase for now. It's the manageable atom. It's like the atomic, it's the building block, the fundamental building block that I need to build up. And the thing was that earlier, I was practicing arpeggiations, except not so much arpeggiation, it was an alternating. It's this. Fingers are kind of sweaty. All right, let's try it again. Sometimes the fingers will mash together. You'll hear it. And my hands are kind of cold, actually. So, right, everything's about advantages. You're always trying to find. In the end, if you're going to do anything, you need all the advantages you can, because you're just starting out. You're level 1. You suck. So I got to warm up my hands. I might have to do some warm-ups. And the thing is, you might have to slow things down. It is better to do something slow and right than something that is fast and wrong. Now, of course, this stuff doesn't sound like a lot of fun, and yes, it will drive your neighbors and friends crazy, but they don't matter. The question is, can you make it sound musical, and can you work towards it? I don't sound great at this. I have to show this to people because they're so used to seeing videos where someone is super competent and they're really good. And I can't show you with drawing anymore because I'm too good at it. Like, when I say I'm too good at the drawing, I'm too good at the raw damage stat, it's like I can't do it wrong. Like, it's ingrained into me to do it the right way. I can't fake being bad at things, bad at drawing anymore. Like, I'm just, sorry, it's trained it up. I got too much. It's like if you got too much raw damage stat, you can't hold back, right? It's like even your slightest move, you wind up blowing away some poor level 1 slime. You can't go easy on it by accident. It's just, that's how it is with drawing. So in the case of a piano playing, I'm just starting out. At least I can show you like where my actual level is, where I'm kind of sucking at it. And the problem with a lot of how-to videos and how-to content on YouTube is that you never see people who suck at things. You never see people who are kind of crappy at it. And so it's like no one ever shows you the bottom rungs of the ladder. No one ever shows you like what it's like to actually struggle, and how you might maybe appear kind of lame to other people, right? In my case, I'm alone in my studio, but on the other hand, I'm recording it and I'm posting my L online for all of you to see, just to show you, yeah, this is what I have to go through in order to become good at anything. And the thing is that, I show you the cover that I made, right? That's how good I'd like to be, right? It's trying to, I'm trying to show to you that I know where my place is, right? I know my place, meaning I would like to be that good. I might be bad at this stuff. You don't have to fucking tell me that I'm bad at this because I know that I'm bad at it. You already know what my vision of really good is because I went in there and I wrote it into the piano and I encoded it and you heard it. It sounded good. And I know I'm not there yet. I'm still working my way there. This is what it's like to try and get good at anything. It's like, the ears are more developed than my hands are at the moment. And I'm still working on that. Feels unfamiliar. I've got a bunch of ligament issues, meaning some things are a little joined together and I gotta, work those ligaments loose. And maybe there's some muscle that needs to be defined. And obviously I need to concentrate on it. In fact, I can even feel that like my fingers are starting to get tired. And it feels a little odd in that this one finger here is raised because of the sharp key. All the other fingers are lower. And all of my arpeggiation practice has been on the white low keys. In fact, it's so much easier on just the white keys. Because I'd been practicing on white keys. I hadn't been practicing on like... And there's a kind of a weird uneven spread. So it means that, it doesn't mean that I'm completely useless when it comes to arpeggiation. It just means I'm only good at white keys that are right next to each other. Now I have to work on uneven. And that's going to take maybe a couple days for me to really get good at that kind of thing. But then it becomes, a tool in my toolbox that I can use later with other tunes. And arpeggiations are in a lot of music. And I think I don't have any classical training. I don't have any I don't have any training to be honest. No formal training, but people always seem to they seem to idolize classical training, for a good reason. I think if I was to say what's good about classical training is I see there's a great emphasis on precision and just like being able to they really take things apart and deconstruct it. They have it seems like classical training really focuses on raw damage stat, on that kind of thing. And that way it's like it really focuses on being able to play a tune rather than it's about the tunes themselves. Which is, I'm all about that. Whenever I learn drawing, I'm same way. It's like I'm all about developing raw capability first, and then getting into the actual tune second. It means that you're basically trying to secure every advantage possible. But it's a kind of approach which I think takes a lot of delayed gratification, and nowadays in 2023, that's a harder thing. That like delayed gratification is like one of the hardest things to find in people, and it's actually disappearing from people. It's like trying to maintain a long attention span, a long enough attention span that you can continue doing the. It's like you're gonna have to just shut off that cell phone for a little while and unplug and get off the social media and maybe turn off video games for a little while and just spend a little bit of time in your studio all by yourself with your own thoughts. I think a lot of people have difficulty with that, right? They're so plugged in and just they got to have the constant stimulation, and I'm just, for me it's easier because I wasn't born in that age, right? I wasn't born in the age where I had cell phones and everything. I'm old. I was born pre-internet. I was born I was born in a time where basically your main form of entertainment was going out and playing around in the backyard, and setting things on fire and launching sharp objects. It's like, for me, the problem was not cyberbullying, it was actual bullying. So I guess, that left me, that makes it easier for me to unplug, and it makes it a lot easier for me to handle kind of, going back to a simpler time and unplugging. I don't envy today's youth. I think they have a much harder time with things. The bottom rungs of the ladder have been cut. It's those last three fingers that are actually... And really, if anything, it's the transition between the pinky and the ring and the middle. Because of that uneven lift, there's like, oh man, I almost, like, I can really feel... And the thing is that if I don't press that key hard enough, it doesn't trigger. Kind of like on a real piano. Like I set up, there's this little option on the VST instrument called silent key, where you can, if you don't press it hard enough, it won't trigger. And I did that on purpose to make it harder for myself to really, because I'd like to be able to, play a real piano. So this is interesting, is that the black key is right on my ring finger, which is like my weak finger. People say their weak finger's their pinky. It's not. It's actually the ring. So yeah, that's going to take like a few days to work out. We're probably not going to get that worked out on this video. And that's another thing, right? It's like, I'm learning as we go along, even through this recording. I just have to, you just have to kind of play the thing and just keep going and be observant and just sort of notice, oh, this part's actually kind of hard. In fact, it's, maybe it's not about, all these fingers. Or maybe it is. And that's the other thing, right? It's like when I play these three keys, I have a tendency to lift my pinky. And maybe there's a way I can like curl my fingers, maybe get a better. It's like, oh, maybe I need to lift my elbow. Maybe there's like a positioning that can make this advantageous. Really hard for me to trigger that ring finger. And there's different ways I can trigger that ring. I can do it with like a wrist flex. Look how different this is, right? Earlier I was doing this. Now I'm doing this. This is much easier. So I've found that there's this kind of a rolling action now that I do. And you know, this is the act of discovery. You keep doing a thing. When you keep doing a thing over and over, your brain starts saying, "This is boring." But you keep doing it and your brain's like, "There's got to be a better way." And so your brain starts saying, "Well, this part's getting tired, so let's shift here this way and that way because it's easier." You actually have to physically go through it and tire your hand out, tire your body out, and what'll happen is your body will start it will start load balancing and it will start shifting things around to find the easier way to do it. This is why you can't learn with just a book, the book telling you what to do. The book says, "Oh, you have to press these keys. Oh, you have to hold your hand this way," because you're not really experiencing it. You're not going through the body damage. You're not going through the actual, you're not going through it yourself. I fucking got it. I fucking got it. Son of a bitch. I thought it was going to take days. And it turns out it took less than half an hour. Like, right? Right? I hope you understand like how important this is. Okay. Anyway, that's it.